When you question things in this company, you're questioning me. And I cannot allow that to happen.
Hey, we are back. Toxic Ring Scandal featuring TBK, the Turnbuckle King. Got another good one things we're going to talk about here. We're going to talk about how TNA got a bad reputation. And what we're going to talk about is Dixie Carter, her tenure as running TNA Wrestling or Impact Wrestling, however you want to call it. And the reason we're going to touch on why TNA Wrestling went up in smoke is to how TNA lost a big major TV deal with Spike TV when they was on weekly with the show TNA Impact. So it's a lot of key factors in there. You guys get the likes up. We get to locker room. We are going to talk about it. It's going to be plenty to talk about here. We're going to talk about Dixie Carter, how she ran TNA, and what people she let in the company, and what led to her demise and the company's demise at that particular time with TNA. And of course, let's stay tuned, get to see the locker room. We are going to air definitely some dirty laundry, and we're going to also load some interviews and see what happened and how did TNA get to this particular point. How did TNA get a bad reputation? How did it lose its good name? The company that founded in 2002, and then it just went up in smoke later on. So let's get into it. I will discuss that right now.
Now, it said Dave Meltzer was reporting that the reason TNA was so secretive about rehiring Vince Russo as a creative consultant because Spike TV does not like Vince Russo. They say they even hate him. And that's not good. And they didn't want the television partners to know about it. See, that's sneaky right there. This is definitely getting dirty. We are at the lockers. You guys like subscribers, you walk into the lockers. We gonna be sitting up for a little bit. Let's read it. It says here on service TNA rehiring Vince Russo. The attempt to keep quiet was rather fool's decision. And he had parallel success as WWF's head writer for a couple years. But you know what? I'm going to let them read it, and they'll explain everything you want to know about what happened with Vince Russo being rehired by TNA and how, like I said before, went downhill. And at this point, there was nothing else that could be done to restore this company as far as TV deals go. So let's get into it. Let's see what they have to say about this. Some reason it's not working. I will read it. I'll read it anyway. I don't know why it's not working. This is strange. But it says here on the surface, TNA rehired Vince Russo as a creative consultant. An attempt to keep it quiet was a rather foolish decision. Said after he had unparalleled success as WWF's head writer for a couple years during the Attitude Era 15 years ago, he's never been able to recapture that magic since. In fact, it's frequently illogical and sleazy crash TV booking helped kill WCW business streams. And although his TNA writing runs have not been exactly on the same scale, merely because the company didn't have far to fall. I agree with that part. And it says here that it was such a juicy rumor going to discover and reported by wrestling media for months. Russo hid in plain sight due to his hallmarks being all over TNA Impact storylines behind duplicates denials, but the truth exploded in hilarious fashion when Vince Russo accidentally emailed PWI insiders Mike Johnson announced the instructions meant for Mike Tenay. Initially, Russo pretended that the email was a hoax designed to prove that the dirt sheets would print anything without checking into it first, but was forced to publicly complain about TNA status when Johnson threatened to publish the email if he did not. How stupid could you be, Vince Russo? This is foolish. That's one of the dumbest things I ever heard. Let's continue. This is definitely getting crazy. However, the further you dig, the more ludicrous this is.
Before we do go back, we got to give Vince Russo one of these. This is definitely, he deserved a list for this one.
You just made the list!
Let's continue on of how TNA got a bad reputation once Mr. Vince Russo got in. CeeLo said, salute to you, CeeLo. He said Dixie Carter ruined Impact Wrestling. Yeah, TNA and Impact. She ruined it all, man. She ruined it all. That's what happens when you have people with a whole bunch of money don't know nothing about business. Spoiled little brats that get money, that come from money like Dixie Carter here. Let's continue on.
Which becomes, it was initially believed that Russo hiring was kept secret because of the Japanese partners, Keiji Muto's Wrestle One promotion. For those you don't know, Keiji Muto, I covered him before. That is the real name of recently retired wrestler, retired a year ago, the Great Muta. That is his promotion. Did not want to do business with a company where Russo had creative influence because they felt he was prejudiced against minorities, given how he booked Mexican and Japanese talent as jabronis and gave them ethically degrading gimmicks in WCW and elsewhere. Ouch. Ouch. Come on, Russo. You fouled for that, man. But as Dave Meltzer explained in this week's subscriber of Wrestling Observer newsletter, TNA Executive Vice President of Creative and Talent Relations, John Gabarick, managed to allay Muto's concerns by explaining to him that Russo was only a consultant and wouldn't be the person responsible for deciding how Wrestle One talent should be portrayed. By TNA television. So this is bad. This is nasty. People don't want to do business with Russo. In Wrestle One, Keiji Muto, aka the Great Muta, he did not like how Vince Russo was disrespecting talent and degrading the gimmicks, as it says right here. He booked Mexican and Japanese talent.
Okay, we got a comment here. Rewind 89. Welcome to Locker. You said, okay, so blame it on Dixie Carter, Pretty Carter feet. Pretty feet Carter and not Hogan and Eric Bischoff. Are we talking about Dixie Carter? How she ran TNA? Are we talking about her feet? So you said blame it on her. How about you focus on Dixie Carter and not looking at her feet? Simp. Come on, man. You sound like a simp right now, Rewind 89. We're gonna call you Simp 89. So we see why you taking off for Dixie, because you're a simp. Come on, man. That's simp talk we doing up in here. Don't bring that crap up in here, man. But anyway, let's get back. And also Rewind 89. I'm not done yet. I'm not done. It's just beginning. So sit back and enjoy the rest. Because I'm not putting 100% everything on Dixie. I am talking about Vince Russo. Don't you see top of the screen said Vince Russo, bad idea? Pay attention, stop looking at Dixie Carter's feet. How about that? Because if you don't, you had just made the list.
You just made the list!
All right, let's continue on. Just pay attention to TNA, not TNA's feet, like some people do in the chat here.
As jabronis. That is not good. That right there will give you a bad name. The wrestling business alone. Then he was hitting, but this is crazy. Not good at all. Definitely not good. But Vince Russo is not only to blame for this. We know that he's not the only one to blame for this whole situation. We know that Vince Russo, yeah, we know he's a sleazeball. We know he's a clown for all the stuff he's done. But like I said, Vince Russo, he doesn't even, today's not even involved in the wrestling business at any companies, whether it's TNA, AEW, NWA, most certainly not WWE. Nobody wants to deal with him. I believe him and Jim Cornette, those are the two wrestling guys that have a history with the wrestling companies, are not involved in any major wrestling promotion at this moment. They are only subdue themselves to being podcasters because of their reputation in the past. Vince Russo we're touching mainly on. People have forgot what he's done in WWE, and they definitely not forgot what he's done in WCW. So he definitely has a bad name, and it's sad to say that I don't think it could ever be restored to where it was. Vince Russo will forever be a podcaster, and he will not get involved in any major wrestling promotion again. If somehow, on the flip side, he starts his own promotion, but then again, who wants to be in his promotion? They already know how he does business, so that's not good at all. But like I said, he's not the only one to blame for this. He's not the he's not the culprit behind this. But I will say that with Vince Russo, he's become a cancer. Regarding this whole thing, he's a cancer. And everywhere, everything he touches, it turns into crap. Everything he touches turns to crap. It literally turns to everything. I mean, it's no good at all for what he's doing. No good. He's caused a lot of bad stuff. Now, he did very little good right in WWE, as the article stated. If that was Attitude Era, we're talking over 20 years ago. Because that article, if you was dated back in 2014. So, Vince Russo definitely is not doing anybody any good by being that company. He's causing more harm than causing good. And I think anybody and everybody that knows the wrestling business and know Vince Russo can agree. Very few will side with him, but most people will say he's a cancer. So, but I will say too, like I said, he's not the only culprit behind this. He's not the only one to blame. I would say that
Nickelodeon was kid everything, but that marked one of the darkest chapters. These are 3 predators who worked at Nickelodeon.
Dixie Carter is to blame for all of this because she was the one running TNA at that particular point in time, and she's the one that rehired Vince Russo back into TNA. Now, I do have Eric Bischoff. He spoke on this, and also Angelina Love, former TNA talent, who's a former Knockout Women's Champion, former TNA Knockout Women's Champion. She has something to say about it too. She chimed in on it, and they basically discussed how they lost the TV deal because they was with Spike TV. Spike TV they was with all those years, and they was even trying to compete with WWE at one point. And unfortunately, it was a fail, as we know. It did not work. It did not happen at all. And it's like as soon as they tried to challenge WWE from Monday night, not only challenged them to a Monday Night Raw, it's literally been downhill ever since then. It has not been the same since then at all. And it's like I said, I know today they're doing better trying to get back. They just recently switched to TNA. I understand that too, but it's not doing them no good at all. It's still bad of the damage that's been caused. The fact they try to go against WWE, it just baffles me. I mean, Spike TV, they was good with them. It was Spike. It was good. They had their deal. And then after all this happened, it went from this to this. And like I said, Dixie Carter, this is all on you. This is all on her shoulders. But despite all of that, I'm going to play what Eric Bischoff had to say about this momentarily and see what did he have to say about this. And then after Eric Bischoff, I'll do him and also Angelina Love.
All right, before we get to Eric Bischoff, Rewind 89 got a lot to say. Let's see what Rewind 89 got to say. You said Sky Hall and Conan both said that was her nickname in the locker room because she walked around like she was better than everyone, so they call her Dixie Carter's pretty feet. Oh, so they simps just like you then. So you were inspired, Sky Hall rest in peace, but you were inspired by simps then. So that's where your simping came from. Got it. You said Vince Russo should start another organization. It's good for business. Well, good for business for a man that has a bad reputation. And this is my answer to that.
No, brother, it doesn't work for me right now.
No, he should not. Actual Pops, English or Spanish, English all day. Rewind 89 said, how can you say Vince Russo's crap? He was the head writer of every wrestling company he worked for. He put the belt on Booker T, Chris Ward, and was for Vince Russo. I mean, Rewind 89, have you been listening? Have you been paying attention at all? Have you lived under a rock? Vince Russo, the only good thing he did was Attitude Era, and he is head writer, but you saw where it went. It went down the drain. This man, no, he hasn't done good at what he does. How can I say it's all bad? It gives the boy another place to work to make money. I mean, bringing him in as a consultant was very bad. It cost him a TV deal. So you think that's good? If you think that that I'm running down on Vince Russo, well, all I gotta say for that is good.
Go cry me a river.
Yeah, go cry me a river. I'm going to get on it. TNA's work with WWE, so they're doing good stuff. Yes, that's now Rewind 89. I'm not talking about now, today. I'm talking about back when Dixie Carter was running it. Again, pay attention. Stop looking at Dixie Carter's feet. Pay attention to what I'm saying on the stream. You're not focused. I'm not talking about today. Vince Russo is a cancer, and I meant that. He does not do no good other than the Attitude Era. WCW was in the flames when he got there. He made it worse. TNA's consultant was part of the problem. I know Bischoff and Hogan played a part too, but they came pretty much at the very tail end. Let's be honest here. Yeah, you give Vince Russo too much credit. I may not be giving him enough. You're giving him too much. But with that being said, we're gonna get into Eric Bischoff interview in a second. We're gonna see what he had to say to Angelina Love, who was formerly a former TNA knockout, as they call it. You guys get the lights up as we in this locker room. Get the lights up here. It's easy.
See how they feel about Dixie Carter at that time, because they both were with the company. Eric Bischoff got there, I think, near the end of that whole regime of Dixie Carter, and Angelina Love was there, during the time she was with the Beautiful People stable, former TNA Knockout Women's Champion. So they were there with Dixie. They know what she had to say, and then we're gonna see what else, see what other information we find on this situation. So, with that being said, we'll move on to Eric Bischoff. We'll see what he had to say about this whole situation.
Trying something new opened up a.
You mentioned Dixie Carter, her relationship with everybody in the office and Vince Russo in particular. Why did Dixie Carter always have a soft spot for Vince Russo as a writer, to the point where she surreptitiously hired him after he was fired and still took advice from him in that sense?
I don't know. I can't explain it. I mean, I can understand why early on, because, Dixie had no experience in wrestling. I'm not even sure she was all that familiar with professional wrestling before she ended up owning the company. And the natural tendency is to kind of surround yourself with people who have had some track record in the business, right? That's not unusual. But, Vince is uniquely charming. Vince can be a very sympathetic character, and he's a very charming guy. He's got a lot of charisma, and he's good at convincing people of things. He's good at convincing himself of things as well. But so I can't be too critical of Dixie for buying into Vince Russo initially. Why the hell she would have ever, as you put it, surreptitiously hired him and tried to keep that away from the network that specifically didn't want him to have anything to do with the program, I think was a self-inflicted wound that obviously TNA never got over. Once, in my opinion, Spike TV and Viacom decided they could no longer trust Dixie, that was the end of the road for TNA. That's what killed TNA more than anything.
And Eric was right. Eric was absolutely right. And I agree. I definitely agree with that one. Definitely agree. He had a good point. I only got one answer. And one answer for that thing. That's yes, yes, yes.
Yes! 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 Yes!
TNA never went out of business. They was there. They made new stars and gave people enough place to work. I didn't say TNA went out of business. I said that they lost a TV deal. Again, rewind. You're not paying attention. You're being in your feelings. Stop being emotional. Instead of being negative, talking down towards TNA, you should be happy there's alternative to other wrestling organizations other than WWE. I'm not being negative. I'm being honest. Dixie Carter, Brady, and Vince Russo did ruin a TV deal. And you hear Eric Bischoff now saying that they specifically told him not to do that. How's that being negative? And I'm calling out the facts. Come on, man. You acting like Jeff Perry right now, man.
Go cry me a river.
Go cry me a river. Stop crying. You don't want to be, I'm being negative. You're being a crybaby. You mad because I'm talking about your press TNA and Dixie Carter's feed. That's why. In your feelings. Empire's F49 said Vince is God. Okay. Let's get back to the Eric Bischoff interview when we talk about TNA. Why don't you guys come in?
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Absolutely. Do you remember why Russo was told by USA to not be associated with TNA any longer? What was the one single idea or story that came up with that USA just said absolutely not?
My opinion.
Sorry, I'm saying Spike.
Yeah, USA. Yeah. My opinion. I think I saw it as it was happening. We were in a venue. We were in an arena one day. We were on the road, and I saw Vince talking up in the stands. It was early in the day, so there's no people there. Up in the stands, he had cornered one of the Spike TV executives and was pleading his case and burying a lot of people in the process, from what I heard from that executive, who told me about it afterwards. And when that executive realized that a guy like Vince Russo.
You hear that? This man, Vince Russo, snake. He up there burying, putting people down, trying to make himself look good. That right there puts you on the list, Vince Russo. You don't have to go on the list for that one. Without a shadow of a doubt. Who told you it was open mic night?
Who the hell told you tonight was open mic night, bitch?
Yeah, you ain't right for that, Vince Russo. Let's see what else you had to say. Rewind 89 said Eric Bischoff ruined WCW, made TNA rates drop, and got fired for WWE twice. So why does his opinion matter? Well, that's true what you're saying. Eric Bischoff is also the same guy that led WCW to beat WWE in 83 weeks in a row. Something that's not been done before, it has been done since. You name me somebody who's done this since WCW. I don't care if it was over 20 years ago. AEW didn't do it. TNA didn't do it. Empire S49 said what they're saying events by AEW or at least take over creative control. I thought about that, Empire S49. If that happened, that would be wild. That would be wild. That would be definitely a politician move, I would say that.
Spoken and spun like a true politician.
I mean,
Yeah, this is good conversation we guys are having, but we all having here. But let's continue on Eric Bischoff interview. And yes, Rewind 89, it matters, just like Dixie Pretty Feet Carter matters to you. So let's continue on.
Was willing to throw his boss and a lot of other people under the bus to better his position, and made up their mind. Again, this is my opinion, that they made up their mind at that point in time that they didn't want to have anything to do with Vince Russo because he didn't have any integrity. They couldn't trust him. People don't realize, you've got to trust. Your television partner, even though you may be getting a check from them every week and you're licensing your program to them, they are your partner. And if you don't treat them like a partner, it's not going to be a long relationship. And part of a good relationship with the network is trust. And they realized they couldn't trust Vince.
That is some very, very informative information he said about Vince Russo. I'm going to go back to some stuff he said because that was very, very crucial. Let's go back and see what he said. He said something important that said that he did one thing to the partner besides the last thing he said about not treating a partner like a partner. See what else he said. This is crazy.
I'm going to give you my number one tip to get over a breakup, and that is going to...
I'm going to go back.
Opinion, I think I saw it as it was happening. We were in a venue, we were in an arena one day. We were on the road, and I saw Vince talking up in the stands. It was early in the day, so there's no people there. Up in the stands, he had cornered one of the Spike TV executives and was pleading his case and burying a lot of people in the process. Specifically didn't want him to have, and he's good at convincing people of things. He's good at convincing himself of things as well. But so I can't be too critical of Dixie for buying into Vince Russo initially. Why the hell she would have ever, as you put it, surreptitiously hired him and tried to keep that away from the network that specifically didn't want him to have anything to do with the program, I think was a self-inflicted wound that obviously TNA never got over. Once in my opinion, Spike TV and Viacom decided they could no longer trust Dixie, that was the end of the road for TNA.
There it is right there. Viacom and Spike TV did not trust Dixie Carter any longer once she decided to do business with Vince Russo and hid it behind their back because that was the TV partner. And once they approached Vince Russo, he tried to plead his case by burying people like Bischoff just said, and try to ruin people's name that he does business with, only to make himself look good to state his case. That's how much of a sleazeball Vince Russo is. Like I said before, Vince Russo is a cancer, and you heard that with Eric Bischoff himself. And he also said something too, that Vince Russo charms his way into getting what he wants. He's a good talker. He did that with Dixie Carter, and because Dixie Carter was not familiar with the wrestling business, and of course not familiar much with Vince Russo and his history, that she bought into his BS. And that was the beginning of the end of TNA. Once this man got involved and was rehired after specifically not to do so by Viacom and Spike TV, who are major networks doing TV with wrestling. So I believe that, and I agree with Eric Bischoff, once they couldn't trust Dixie no more, they lost a TV deal, and TNA was never rebounded from that. But that's how bad Vince Russo name is. As I stated a few minutes ago from that article, Eric Bischoff pretty much was backed up what that article said and what I was saying. He has a bad name. He tries to convince people in a good way. He even tried to convince himself. He said it sarcastically. That's how bad Vince Russo is. But like I said, this man is no good. And you see he's not with no wrestling company since then. That was the last major company he's been with. and I believe this was late 2000s going to early 2010-ish. If I had to guess, I could be wrong. But he's not the only one that had to speak on the Dixie Carter situation. Now, he didn't speak so much on Dixie. He took up for Dixie. Eric Bischoff did not hold Dixie accountable. He pretty much was taken up for Dixie, but he knew she was wrong too. He only held Vince Russo accountable. He tried to say she didn't know, which is true, but she still made that decision. And I know people had advised Dixie, I'm pretty sure they did, not to do business with Vince Russo. So Eric Bischoff may consider Dixie Carter off the hook, but I don't. I do not consider her off the hook at all. We don't do that here at the locker room. Locker room, we call all of it out. We're here to air everything, and that's pretty much one part of it. There's still more parts of this story that needs to be highlighted, and that will be done shortly. Now, like I said before, Eric Bischoff's not the only one who spoke on the situation. Former knockout TNA champion Angelina Love also spoke on this, and she has something to say regarding this. Now, let's see what she had to say about this, because this is just crazy.
No matter who you are.
And it's these people witness everything of how bad it got. It's just that sad. So we're gonna share that right now and see what happened. So let's see what's going on. And this is this Angelina Love. She spoke with Inside the Ropes. Credit to them. And we're gonna see what she had to say about this.
We saw on Women's Divisions Wednesday, we saw the appearance of Dixie Carter, to the shock of many fans. I wanted to ask, obviously, you've had a lot of experience with Dixie.
Shock of me too.
Yeah, you spoke about her quite a bit, but I just wanted to kind of see, what was your sort of experience like working with Carter and TNA, and kind of through the ups and downs? What's kind of your closing thoughts looking back on that now that you've got, you know, nearly another 10 years of experience and understanding of the industry that you might not have had at that time? Looking back on it,
yeah,
what's kind of your thoughts on everything?
Oh, like disaster. Coming from, WWE and being devastated at, being released and stuff like that, and then coming into TNA and then seeing like a female president or whatever she was, you know what I mean? But just not ready, didn't have the knowledge. And she's the reason that we lost the Spike TV deal, which we were on Spike TV, like the Ultimate Fighter was on after us. Like Velvet and I were like sitting like third row ringside at UFC fights, because we had that, being on Spike TV is really, I think, what helped make a lot of us TNA people a household name, because we had that exposure. But yeah, I think a lot of people thought she was just very impressionable, maybe kind of dumb, and they could take advantage of her and tell her like, hey, this should be done this way and this should be done that way. And she was like, okay. And she changed too at some point, because she used to be, wanting to know about people's families and how are your kids. And I had broken up with a boyfriend at the time, and her and I talked in the bathroom for 10 minutes, and it was really nice. And, that was back in 2008. And then come 2010, 2011, it was just she'd walk by people like they didn't even exist. And, the money that was being spent in the just dumbest ways. And then her, honestly, in my personal opinion, what I saw in Dixie is that she was so desperate to be just like Stephanie McMahon. Because she wanted to have her own reality TV show. And it's who the fuck would watch that? Excuse my language. Who would watch that? Who would watch a Dixie Carter reality show? You know what I mean? Like that. And nobody wanted to do that because they knew it would flop. And that was a big contingency for her, and this and that. And Spike TV was going to renew a contract with TNA, and she wanted double what they were offering. And Spike TV was like, are you crazy? But God bless them, and I don't blame them. They held their ground until they.
Also, too, this is another reason. If you guys remember this part here, this is another reason why Dixie Carter, this was pretty much the end of her run. this when she cuts this staff meeting. Very, very heinous meeting.
When you question things in this company, you're questioning me. And I cannot allow that to happen.
So this is the ego that Angelina Love is referring to with Dixie Carter. Well, let's her continue on this interview with Inside the Ropes.
They were like, all right, well, we're pulling out, we're done. And then she was like, oh, no, wait, yeah, I'll sign that, it sounds great. And then they were just like,
yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you know, at TV, we're filming and all of us are like, are we gonna have a job next month? Like what? Like it was crazy. It was crazy vibes backstage when that happened, but that was all her.
Wow. So we heard one side from Eric Bischoff talking about how Vince Russo getting involved was definitely led to the demise of TNA losing the TV deal. But now we're hearing another side story from Angelina Love saying that Dixie Carter became very power hungry, very controlling, and not being a people person. She said in the beginning that Dixie Carter seemed, you know, like a people person at first, who wanted to know more about people and their families. And as soon as she started getting money with TNA and the TV deal, before the contract was renewed with Spike TV, that it led to.
My name is Lucy, and I have to figure out who I am.
It led to, you know, not renewing because Dixie Carter wanted too much money. She wanted way too much money, and she wanted double of what they had. And TNA was starting to become on the rise before all this bad stuff happened. And the fact that Dixie Carter wanted double the money, that is baffling. And like Angelina Love said, they stood their ground and said no, and I can't blame them. TNA was nowhere near on that. They was a small promotion that started to get big, but they exactly weren't there. But to want double of that, you ought to be happy you on TV at all. But, you know, I know Angelina Love now talk about the Vince Russo situation, but then again, she was not a part of management. She was just a talent. Eric Bischoff was a part of management, so he know a little bit more about the Vince Russo. So it's a comment, seemed like to me, based off these two reactions of Eric Bischoff and Angelina Love, it was a combination of Vince Russo getting involved, being creative consultant, being hired behind Viacom and Spike TV's back, and a little bit of Dixie Carter being controlling, manipulative, and power hungry. And that's what it says about those. And those speak volumes when you act like that, when you're power hungry and you don't know what you're doing and you let people take advantage of you, and then you're taking advantage of people. It sounds like a whole dumpster fire with this whole thing. That's what it sounds like to me. And it just don't make no sense that it got to that point. So you hear, like I said, you hear from the management perspective and a talent perspective. It's a combination of bringing the wrong people into the company, especially being advised not to do so, and of course, money. Ask for too much money and not knowing your place. Like, you're not WWE. You was never going to be on WWE's level. You were just TNA. So that's what Dixie Carter failed to understand. And I think another part of this, why it went downhill too with Dixie Carter, with the TV deal failure, besides Vince Russo, which is already discussed how bad that was, then ask for too much money. Another reason that I want to highlight right now, I think another reason that did lead to the demise of TNA and losing the TV deal, it was also you went up against the biggest dog in the wrestling industry. And I'm going to say here, it's when TNA was something they shouldn't have never done. And I say that to this day. It's just, I'm thinking about now how bad it was. it just made the biggest mistake. But the biggest thing that they did do that was a big mistake, which I haven't seen too many people do. They're the last one to do it. TNA challenged WWE Raw for ratings. You don't do that. You are nowhere near in that position to do that. And I believe that's what another led to the reminds of that. And I'm going to have another backup to this claim of what I mean by that. This is, like I said, it was so many things causing this company to fail. And this was by another talent. He's a very, very well decorated superstar, one of the best ever to put on a pair of boots in a wrestling ring. Mr. Kurt Angle, former TNA champion, former WWE champion, former World Heavyweight champion. We all know the whole deal, but we're going to discuss that right now. He says in this article right here, he explains why TNA Impact failed on Monday nights against WWE Raw. And this was just a few days ago. He said 2010 was meant to be the dawn of second Monday Night Wars, with TNA moving the Impact to Mondays in a bid to battle WWE Raw and light a fire under the stagnant professional wrestling scene. The move was ultimately a bad one. No kidding. As WWE trounced TNA with the move to Mondays, alienating many longtime TNA fans and selling the company back several years. Now let's see. One person of the Center Wars, Kurt Angle, and the TNA Hall of Famer said following the Monday Impact during the recent edition of Kurt Angle's Show podcast, he said, and I quote, "I was excited about it, to be honest with you. I was really excited because I wanted to compete with WWE." Man, this is crazy. Let me see. I believe that, this is what led to, like I said, in the minds of TNA, and this just was never ever the same. And it's sad because they didn't. I think Impact was overstepping their boundaries, and they should have stayed in their lane. That's my opinion on that. They should never did that, and it's one bad thing to another, So this was no good at all. No good at all. And it shouldn't have been that way because WWE was already doing it, and it wasn't even worried about TNA. TNA was trying to challenge WWE, and that was a big, big mistake. That's something they should never, ever done. And it didn't make any sense to me. No sense. And I think, like I said, he made a big mistake. They made a big mistake doing that. So it was no good. That was the last time we had a Monday Night War with two major wrestling companies. You see that it's not happened since then. So, but like I said, I can't be the only one to talk about it. I believe that some more should be highlighted on this, what happened, and I'm going to definitely talk. We're gonna go more into this. So let's see if it's possible. Let's see what Mr. Kurt Angle had to say about this, because this is very, very serious, because it just seemed like Dixie Carter was in over her head. That's the way I see it. And I don't know how that Dixie Carter couldn't see the signs that you shouldn't have done that at all. That's just my opinion on that whole thing. So this was a bad move. This was a bad move for TNA, and this is tied into everything else. But like I said, it's just no other words. It just seemed like the madness do not stop. It do not stop. It does not stop here at all. One thing after another. So it's like we got one part already of Vince Russo management, money, and now you're involving trying to challenge the wrong people on television, and that you shouldn't have to do that. And it's just a bad look for the company. Altogether, it's a bad look for the company. And I hope other companies have learned from this, like AEW and NWA. I hope they learn from this. This is not what you do. It's definitely not what you do. So let's see what else is going on. Like I said, gonna definitely touch into that shortly. This is just there's nothing. It was Dixie didn't do anything right, and I agree. She just was in over her head. That's no other way to put it. Let's see what Kurt Angle had to say about this, because I know he's a very reputable source. So let's get into that right now. Let's get into that shortly. See what happened.
Yeah, guys. We gonna get to Kurt Angle interview. See who came to the locker room. Brutally honest, Goodbread, salute to you. That's coming out, man. Appreciate it. You know, Imagine celebrated 100K at his channel, 100K subs. Congrats to him. But let's see what Kurt Angle had to say about the whole Monday Night Wars. Like, subscribe as you come to the locker room.
Pull that up shortly.
How's that sound, Kurt? Let's dig into our topic. How's that sound, Kurt?
Yes, sir. Sounds good.
All right, let's do it, because we're here to talk about Hulk Hogan entering the Impact Zone, brother. And so let's start from the beginning, as we should. When did Dixie Carter, Kurt, tell you that she was thinking about bringing in not just Hulk Hogan, but Eric Bischoff as well?
She told me right when she talked to them. Right when they showed interest, she came to me and said, "Hey, what do you think?" I said, "That's a great idea." I mean, it's honestly, I like Hulk Hogan. I like Eric Bischoff. I think they are good for the business, and I knew they could help us out. Definitely.
More eyes on the product, right? With Hogan.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, this is in 2010. TNA makes the official announcement December 5th. That they're making the move from a special Monday night show, that it was going to be 3 hours. Was that something, too, that you were excited about? What'd you think, man? This is a big move, Monday Night Wrestling for TNA.
You know what? I was excited about it, to be honest with you. I was really excited because I wanted to compete with WWE. But we learned very quickly that you cannot compete with WWE if you don't have the money available. TNA had money, but they didn't have the money that WWE had. So it was really hard to compete against WWE. And I'll give you an example. Hogan and Bischoff wanted us to rent bigger venues. So we had to pay for those up front. And those bigger venues, they were for house shows, not even TV. Some of them were TV, some of them were house shows. But they wanted to rent these out, and it's a lot more expensive. So now we're booking all these shows all over the country, and we have to put up a deposit. It's a good bit of money. So I just think that we did everything really too quickly. I think maybe we start with the Monday night thing, let that build up a little bit, and then go, try to expand with your TVs and bigger arenas. But we did it all really quickly, and it was just too much.
It's like, let's see how, let's make sure that the growth is going to be there, whether it's ad growth, we're going to Monday night. Let's see how the revenue is going to turn out from there first before we start saying, hey, let's just rent all these buildings too while we're at it at the same time.
Right. You know what? We did get 2.19 million viewers that first Monday. I mean, it was our best rating ever. And we were consistently doing about 2 million a week at that particular time. So I'd say that was the highest peak in our company in the history. I think that we had the highest ratings at that particular time. And I think that's the only time that we could probably take a chance, try to go up against WWE, but it didn't work out. And I told Dixie, listen, back off, back away. You don't have to be number one. It's okay to be number two. especially where we were in this. You know, we had Hulk Hogan, we had Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Ric Flair, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Ken Anderson. I mean, I could let the what do you call it?
The roster was
the
loaded.
roster was loaded. So you know, there was no reason that we couldn't continue to work and try to build the company.
And by the way, that announcement, December 5th, 09.
All right, now that's Kurt Angle's reaction to when TNA challenged Monday Night Raw to the Wars, the Monday Night Wars, which, like I said, was a huge mistake. It's something they should never have done, and it led to the demise of TNA. It's just something that was a bad move. It didn't make any sense. Now, I know what Kurt Angle was talking about. I remember when that happened. I think Jeff Hardy had just got over there. He was recently released from WWE. The previous year with this, his substance abuse issue. And I know the first episode was January 4th, 2010, if I want to say it. Yep, right here, January 4th, 2010. That was the first night that TNA challenged Raw. And it like Kurt Angle said, they had one good episode, but it still wasn't enough to compete against the powerhouse as we known as WWE. No matter if people like WWE or don't, you're not going to beat them. It's going to be hard to beat them. You may win the battle, but you will lose the war. TNA won maybe that first week, and that was it. It was never ever the same. I think they did this for maybe a year or so before it completely shut down after that. But as we see here, there's another perspective. There were so many factors, so many things, if that was factored in as well, that led to the demise of TNA. It wasn't just one thing. Now we see multiple things. And it's sad. It's sad that it got to this point. It wasn't just management. It wasn't just money. It was just a greed. It sounded like all this came down to greed, being naive, and being controlling and power hungry. That's what it showed for what I see. And it's a combination of everything. It's sad because it didn't have to come down to this. I think the way TNA is doing things now in 2024, I believe that they should have, if they did this way back then, it would have definitely helped them become a better company. And they could have just stayed in their lane instead of trying to get WWE's lane. They would have still thrived. It just would have been on a smaller scale. I mean, imagine it's like a small burger joint trying to compete against McDonald's. You'll never beat McDonald's, but you always will be someone on the scale. Similar to Burger King. Burger King's not going to top McDonald's ever. McDonald's will always be number one. But Burger King, no, they can't beat McDonald's, but they stay in their lane. They still thrive. They still have business going. And that's why things going with TNA. This was a bad move. The Monday Night War was like pretty much, in addition to everything else, it was the final nail in the coffin. Besides Dixie Carter being power hungry, besides her make bad decisions with Vince Russo, besides bringing him in, it was pretty much the nail in the coffin with the Monday Night War. And then you perform well enough to get, more money, but you still wanted more money. So no, that's terrible for Dixie Carter part. It was no good at all. There was no way it was going to work. Not by any means. It just wasn't going to work. And in addition to this, like I said before, Dixie Carter, the way she carried herself and the way she presented herself to management and her talent, she pretty much did not lead a good morale in the locker room. She did not do that at all. And like I said before, Dixie Carter is the blame for all of this. She's the initial blame, because this was her in charge of everything, you know. And what's so sad about it is not only will people, Angelina Love voiced her opinion of how Dixie was treating people, she also displayed it. She displayed it the way she talked to talent, you know, and it's just, it's sad.
And then also too, this really got bad when Dixie Carter started doing a storyline where it said it was real a shoot, as they call it, but she was begging Hogan. That's how you know TNA was done and need to start over. So you knew it was a wrap then, and that's where Hogan quit. Hogan was done. I think that was real. He really was done. That was like a storyline to me, but I call it how I see it. Let's continue on.
And if we could be afforded, let's also have another clip of this that we react to, of how she talked to the talent. And this is a way terrible, disgusting way to talk to your talent. No way should you talk to your talent like this. And this showed her not only her inexperience how to run a company, but her greed, her power, and her attitude. All the combination of those things is what led to the demise. In addition to everything else, her demeanor did not help by any means. So let's see what this Miss Dixie Carter was doing that caused this.
President 6 years ago, I've had a lot of people telling me how to run a wrestling company. And while I appreciate their contributions, it's time for a change. We've had a lot of great things going on in this company. We've made a lot of changes in the last few months that I'm sure you've seen, and we made a bigger change even last week. I can assure you that we'll have more changes coming in the coming weeks and the coming months as well. Nobody likes drastic change. Nobody likes big moves. I understand that. And it affects different people different ways. And while I respect that those of you out there might have differing opinions of the decisions that I'm making, I expect you to support me 100%. When you question things in this company, you're questioning me. And I cannot allow that to happen. Business is about choices. I've made the choice to put my finances, my reputation, my passion, my love behind each and every one of you and this company. And it's time for you to do the same thing. You have a choice to make. You can choose to support me. You can choose to support the direction TNA is going, or you can choose not to. But you'll need to find another place to work. It's time for us to swing for the fences. It really is. No great success comes without risk, and I'm great with that. I hope you are too. Now's our time. I look out at the faces that have made this company, and you've made me very proud. But this is a test. So I'm asking all of you to step it up in every way possible. And let's do this thing together, because now's our time, and you've got to believe it. If you don't believe it, you're hurting the person sitting next to you. You're hurting me, you're hurting our fans. But if you believe it, let's do this thing together, and let's show what everybody we're all about.
Step it up, step it up. You're hurting our fans. You need to look in the mirror, Dixie Carter, because you're the one that hurt everything. This woman got to be the worst wrestling boss ever. The fact that you had a meeting like this, and I know Impact that pulled it, or TNA pulled it. I'm sorry, they went back to TNA. I think that's when they first transitioned to the Impact thing. I think that this is the fact you aired this, and people can see this. If you look on the talent faces of how she said that were like, they had to whatever look like, how dare you? Who do you think you are, Dixie Carter, talk to your employees like that, televised, and saying that basically it was her chastising them, like, you're gonna do what I say, you're gonna follow behind me or find somewhere else to work. Quit.
Who the hell told you tonight was open mic night, bitch?
Find somewhere else to work. It ain't gonna work for you here. TNA will not be the spot for you here. You're not gonna be here at Impact at the time. So how can you talk to people like that and expect a high success rate out of that? How you gonna expect to talk to your employees like that and expect them to just thrive automatically? You brought them a whole morale down of her way she acted, and that clip pretty much backed up what Angelina Love was saying earlier. That's how she was backstage. I could tell it's demonstrating the whole interview. You talked to them like they was pieces of garbage. You told them that they better get in line or that's it. Support me or else. Don't question me. You don't question what I do in this company. You questioning me. Just come to work and shut your mouth and don't have no type of opinion on anything. And she wants you to be a robot. And that's terrible for Dixie Carter to come to her people like that. These are your employees who's putting their bodies on the line, sacrificing, being away from their families, putting on a great show for the fans, putting on a good job for, make sure, of course, the workers work good with each other, their colleagues and management, middle management or upper management, and of course you, Dixie Carter. They're doing everything they can, and then you talk to them like that? Who the hell do you think you are? You're nobody. To talk to somebody like that. And this is what I meant earlier about her overstepping her boundaries as a boss and being so power hungry and pushing your weight around and say you think you can say whatever you want to whoever you want and expect to get the results that you want. Dixie Carter, no, that's not how you do things. That's not how you do things. That's terrible. She ought to be ashamed of herself talking to a boss like that. That's why she's in the position she's in now, which is nowhere. You're in no wrestling company, no promotion, no type of management, not low management, not middle management, and most certainly not upper management. And I think it was best for business for Dixie Carter to leave the whole wrestling industry altogether and just move on and do her thing. That's not the way you talk to your talent. That's terrible. She know better than that. That's just sad how she talked to her people. That is not how a boss supposed to talk to her employees. That's not good at all. That's definitely not good. Definitely not good by any means. So I don't like that at all, how she talked to her employees. That's disgusting. It's downright diabolical. It's disgusting. It's just horrible on all levels. I'm not gonna. I would like to say more. I'm not gonna say it. It's just. How more bitchy could you be towards your management? Your management and your regular talent. Because I know she talked to the management crazy too. If you talk to talent like this, it just showed on televised you talk to your talent crazy. But I could see why TNA went downhill. I could see why it did not work. She demonstrated right here. Now, with all that being said, we had a combination of Vince Russo being brought in. We talked about how Dixie Carter was talking to her employees, how she treated the employees, and then we talked about the Monday Night Wars. And of course, her recently now, how she talked to employees on camera.
Yeah, this was crazy. Dixie Carter, they said she's one of the worst people to ever work for in the wrestling business. We could talk about Vince McMahon, we could talk about Tony Khan, we could talk about Eric Bischoff, we could even talk about Paul Heyman, but I think she ranks like the lowest of the lowest. So fast forward now today, TNA is back in a very good position. It has a partnership with WWE. definitely has a good partnership with WWE. We see Jordan Grace on WWE TV, Joe Hendry. Then we saw NXT talent on TNA, like Izzy Dame. We saw Tatum Paxley on there. And of course, it's only going to get better with the partnership, going to get stronger. I expect the Worlds Collide version, like NXT used to have, maybe TNA and WWE. So it's the future is very bright for TNA today. Thank God that Dixie's not around. She can't ruin it anymore, but very, very good. And I'm glad it's got better. It's back to where it should be. I heard recently that they're trying to get a TV streaming deal similar to WWE and Netflix. I heard they try to get a better TV deal. So that's good for TNA. I'm glad they're back in position because I like all wrestling, not just WWE. TNA has good talent over there. And of course, AEW has good talent. So very good for TNA. And this is why, and it's crazy that all this happened with TNA when they was on a come up. They probably, where they are right now, years ago, had Dixie Carter not fumbled the bag with the TV deal. But that's all I have regarding how TNA got a bad reputation. Talked about all the days that TNA, all the bad stuff happened. You know, Dixie Carter played her part, Vince Russo, then Eric Bischoff, Hogan near the end, but mostly Dixie because she's the head, so I hold her most accountable. And we heard the interviews Angelina Love and Eric Bischoff and Kurt Angle. But that's all I have regarding that. Soon to be able to pop up won't be how did Kurt and Giovanna become one, and that's when it's real reason Kim married Randy. You guys already know what it is. It is OUT.